Hello and welcome to our tutorial on adjective phrases. The purpose of this video is essentially to introduce adjective phrases in sentences, and this video is designed for students at the middle and high school level. Like all videos that you can find online, it's a good idea to be able to kind of have the flexibility to pause, rewind, rewatch the video. So if you're sitting with some notes in front of you, it might be a good idea to be able to pause this presentation if you wanted to write down any of the examples, or rewind and go back and rewatch something again. Alright, so let's get started. Before we start, your success with adjective phrases is going to lie in your ability to find prepositions and prepositional phrases in the sentences. So you can see in front of you there are lots of different options and lists online about the prepositions in the English language. If at this point you're not able to find prepositional phrases in the sentence, I think that's going to be the starting point for you. You can always go online and do some Google searches for preposition lists. You can do some YouTube searches and look up some preposition songs, but really your success with finding phrases is going to start with being able to find the preposition and its phrase before you can move on to classifying them as adjectives or adverbs. Also, we want to go ahead and review what do we know about adjectives, probably from elementary school. So one of the things we want to remember is that an adjective is a word that modifies a noun or pronoun. Okay? So these adjective phrases will be coming after or essentially describing nouns and pronouns in the sentence. And adjective phrases always will be telling what kind or which one. So they're describing words that tell what kind or which one in our sentences. So that's pretty important as we're thinking adjectives in our lesson today. Alright. So here are the first two sentences that we're going to start with today. So if you want to pause the video here and write down these two sentences, we will be right back. Alright, as we get started, the first thing we always want to do is read the sentence all the way through before we start looking for prepositional phrases to classify. So sentence A, a boy in my math class broke his arm yesterday. So the first step to success is being able to identify the prepositional phrase in the sentence, and you can see it right here, in my math class. When we ask ourselves, what is that prepositional phrase doing in the sentence, it's actually describing which boy we're talking about. So it's clarifying, it's giving more information, it's describing the boy, which makes this an adjective phrase. In sentence B, our class just read a story about a dog in the wild. Again, first we want to be able to find the prepositional phrases in the sentence. This sentence has two different phrases. About a dog, when we ask ourselves what is the function, what is it doing in that sentence, it's actually describing story. It's telling us what kind of story we read. Oh, sorry, that J doesn't look spectacular. And then essentially we move on to the next one, and in the wild we ask ourselves, what is it doing in the sentence, right? And in the wild is telling what kind of dog, so that too is an adjective phrase. Now one of the things you might notice right now is when we're looking at an adjective phrase in a sentence, if the prepositional phrase sort of sits here, and we know that it's an adjective phrase, more often than not, and this is a really good rule to use, the noun that it's describing must be right in front of it. And that's a good rule right now. Every once in a while the noun will be a couple of words ahead of it, but an adjective phrase for what we need to know right now always has to come after the noun that it's describing. So that's something that maybe we want to just kind of pay attention to and think about as we move forward. An adjective phrase must follow the noun that it's describing until you get into more advanced structure, but for the purposes of middle school that should be sufficient. Alright, here are two more sentences that we can practice with today. So again, if you want to pause the video right here, and then we'll resume in just a moment. Alright, welcome back. So again, let's read the sentence. Some of the students will be dressed as important figures from U.S. history. Using a preposition list or the knowledge that we have, we always want to find the prepositional phrase first. This sentence we have two different prepositional phrases there. Of the students is clarifying, it's giving more information for the indefinite pronoun some. It's explaining that it's not some of the teachers, it's not some of the parents, it's not some of the animals, it's actually some of the students. So it's clarifying which some are we talking about. And then, of course, from U.S. history is telling what kind of figures are they going to be dressed as. It's giving extra information. Again, you'll see that the prepositional phrases are coming right after the nouns in the sentence. And sentence D, have any of the people in your neighborhood decorated their houses yet? Again, we want to start with finding the prepositional phrases. And then we ask ourselves, of the people, what is it doing in the sentence? What is its role? It's actually clarifying the indefinite pronoun any. So it's acting as an adjective. And in your neighborhood, what is it doing in that sentence? What is its role outside of just that it's a prepositional phrase? It's actually describing people. Which people are we talking about? The people in your neighborhood. So there you have it. That's essentially a quick introduction of just adjective phrases and sentences. Oftentimes you're going to find that most grade level sentences in middle and high school have multiple prepositional phrases, and it's not always going to be that they just have adjective phrases. So this is just an introduction. On the next slide, what I've done for you is I've given you a couple of different sentences to try on your own. So again, if you want to just visually look at these and see if you can identify why they're adjective phrases, what they're describing, or if you want to pause the video, write these down and come back and check your answers. Alright, so if you've done this, here are the answers for you right now. And what I want to do is draw your attention to sentence number 3, where you have about a break-in. Oops, sorry, let's go back. Here in sentence number 3, you have this prepositional phrase. Here's the preposition, here's the object. The difference in this sentence, though, is that it's not describing the noun right in front of it. Here is the noun right in front of it, but it's actually not telling what kind of newspaper was it. It wasn't a newspaper about a break-in. So this adjective phrase is describing the noun over here. So article actually has two different prepositional phrases describing it. It's an article in the Wizard newspaper. It is also an article about a break-in. So that rule about the adjective phrase must follow the noun that it's describing, it still applies. It's just that this noun article has two different adjective phrases describing it, and since you can't stack them on top of each other, you have to put them consecutively in order. Alright, that's it for our tutorial today. Feel free to check out some of my other videos or look up some other resources online for adjective phrases. Until next time.